Americans are drowning in stuff. Clothing, electronics, toys and games, collectibles, appliances. We have closets and drawers filled with stuff. Some of us have so much stuff, we need to rent storage units to hold it. Why? Why are so many people consumed by consumption? I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, a contributing editor at checkbook.org.
Welcome to Consumerpedia at checkbook.org. We're the nonprofit that helps consumers select services, avoid trouble, and save money. Because we don't accept any advertising or take money from any business we recommend, you can rely on checkbook.org to be completely independent and objective. Now, here's the host of Consumerpedia, America's consumer expert, the Consumer Man, Herb Weisbaum.
Amazon, Temu, eBay, Shine, Facebook Marketplace. It's never been easier to shop until you drop. By one estimate, 20 million Americans are compulsive shoppers. About 2.5% of us meet the diagnostic criteria for a hoarding disorder. The urge to buy, and keep fueled a new book, American Bulk, Essays on Excess. In this collection of deeply personal stories, Emily Mester explores her father's obsession with shopping and her own tendency to overbuy. Plus, she shares the tricks she used as a salesperson to close the deal. Emily, it is so nice to meet you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So your book, American Bulk, is a collection of essays, and you share some really personal stories about you and your family and friends. Much of it has to do with buying and selling, what motivates us, how stores and salespeople can manipulate us. What made you decide to write this book?
Initially, I wanted to write an essay just about Costco. And I knew it had played a significant role in my life. You know, I grew up going there every Sunday. I didn't really have a theory about what it meant in a broader sense or what it meant to my family. And I knew all these sort of disparate facts about my family. I was like, all right, we've got some hoarding in there. We've definitely got some buying and overconsumption, but I didn't have a coherent thesis about it. So I went with a friend to Costco and I sort of walked around. He'd never been, and I walked around and I, just pointed things out and was like, oh, isn't it interesting that you can't buy just like a jar of oregano? And oh, did you know that vodka, the bottle is ugly, but it's actually allegedly Grey Goose. And then as I wrote the essay, I think I realized it was pretty difficult to write an essay about Costco without writing an essay about my family's own peccadillos about buying. And then from there, I got the title of the book, American Bulk, and then I came up with a bunch of essays that would go with it. Then in writing it, I sort of realized how deeply consumption defines, really everyone's lives, but particularly my family's life.
We're going to talk more about Costco in a minute, but let's start off with your shopping experiences as a kid. You say your mom was frugal, but you called your dad obsessed with acquiring stuff. You write, quote, every Sunday we do this. We go to our favorite stores. The trick to get something is to ask Dad when his cart is full and he's close to the registers when he seems happy and light. My mom will say I don't need it, so I don't ask her, but Dad will say sure, and she'll sign, I'll add it to his pile. The piles and carts become piles and bags. When we bring all the bags into the house, they'll sit there for days, sometimes weeks. So it sounds like the motivation for spending money was simply to buy stuff for your father?
Yeah, I guess so. It's for him and for me, it seems to be this kind of ancient, deep, kind of reptilian impulse, because he was doing this, I think even in college. He was apparently, he didn't have any money, but he was, going into credit card debt, buying like ridiculous, as seen on TV, things like a pizza oven and like an egg-tastic, that kind of thing. I think, as I say in the essay, it's sort of the shape his money takes. It's like a physical evidence of his prosperity. And I think, some people, they want a couple sort of shining big tokens to their wealth. They want a fancy car and fancy watches, but I feel like he just wants lots and lots of kind of regular person stuff.
I found it interesting that he wouldn't want to look at the stuff when he got it home, but he kept it in bags and on the kitchen table. To me, that's the joy. It's not the spending the money. It's getting it home and plugging the thing in or using it or whatever.
Spoken like someone who is not addicted to shopping. Yeah. I know you would think that the utility, the joy of the thing lies in owning it. But no, I totally see where my dad's psychology comes from, because I have it too. I order things online, and the best moment is when you slice open the box and you open it up. It's like that Christmas morning feeling. And, Christmas morning too, the excitement of Christmas morning. Yes, it's owning the stuff later, but it's getting the stuff that's so exciting. It's the dopamine hit of receiving.
So in that chapter, Wholesale, which is mostly focused on shopping at Costco, you said this was something your family did every week, one of the few things you all did together.
Yeah, we weren't like a big sitcom togetherness family. I remember once I suggested that we do a family game night because I think I saw some sort of PSA about how it brings families together. And they were like, who do you think we are? Shopping was basically our primary mode of togetherness because it gives you, yeah, it's like a third thing you can kind of look at. A shopping addiction is the same thing. It's just like an outlet to place living when you don't really know where else to put it.
And in that chapter, you call your dad a compulsive shopper and described him walking up and down the aisles of Costco, not with a list of things he needs, but with the wide eyes of a child in a toy store. You wrote, he fills the cart with cereal and bagels, yes, but also with wrench sets, hole punchers, colorful plastic drinking tumblers, Kirkland brand khaki pants, over and over. And despite my mother's protests, and while my dad might not spend like the average Costco shopper, his neuroses are its collective beating heart. It's true that Costco gets you more for your money, but it seems like the discount is only a secondary pleasure. It's not the money part that inspires a cult-like devotion. It's the more. Spend time in any Costco and you'll feel it too. The joy of Costco does not lie in thrift. It lies in bulk.
Yeah. Obviously Costco is a great deal. That's why people go. If it wasn't, they wouldn't go. But I think there is a joy that people don't fully reckon with that is just seeing all that stuff and having all that stuff available to you and having permission to buy that stuff because it's such a great deal. There is something just like viscerally pleasurable about like a big pallet of toilet paper. And when you can get it for a good deal, it's kind of all the sweeter. And some people have chafed at this analysis. They're kind of like, no, I just go to Costco for the deals. That's really all. And it's like, yes, but isn't a little bit of it just the plenitude, how much stuff there is available to you?
I've heard it described as a treasure hunt because, in fact, they actually do move things around, so you have to look for them and go past other things that you may not know was there. I mean, they're pretty smart at how they get you to buy stuff.
Yeah, because if you compare it, when you go into the grocery store, most people don't walk in being like, ooh, what's new at the grocery store? What will I find around this aisle? They're going for stuff they need. But with Costco, I think most people, they sort of wander around and they're like, ooh, what did they add? What clothing did they add? And there's even, entire Instagram accounts and YouTube channels. The whole thing is they just list all the new things Costco has. And often I follow some of them, even though I don't even go to Costco that much anymore. I'm like, ooh, oh my God, Costco has that? Like, wow, Costco has this brand of deer foam slippers. That's so exciting. It's like a treasure hunt. What will be brought into the fold of the deal?
I remember when I was first married, we went there, and my wife came home with like a size of mayonnaise that would last the entire neighborhood a year. I mean, if you have a big family, one thing, but at least like with salad dressing and stuff, they figured out how to give you 6 little bottles as opposed to one gigantic bottle that will take care of your whole zip code.
The tubs of mayonnaise, I always looked at those and was just like, I'm interested in whoever this is for.
Well, at one point in your life, you worked as a salesperson, and your job was to get customers to spend more. Up next, we're going to talk to Emily about the tricks she was taught to boost sales. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, and this is Consumerpedia, powered by checkbook.org.
From tech gadgets to financial tips, travel hacks to health trends, Consumerpedia provides expert insights and practical advice to help you save time and money, avoid the scams, and stay healthy. With dozens of episodes to choose from, Consumerpedia is your guide to making informed decisions. Just go to consumerpedia.org and search by episode title or topic, such as home, travel, auto, finance, consumer protection, or technology. Checkbook's Consumerpedia podcast. Consumerpedia.org. Listen and learn, and share with your friends.
Our guest is Emily Mester, author of the new book, American Bulk, Essays on Excess. So, Emily, when you graduated college, you were an English major, you went to work at an Ulta cosmetic store in South Carolina, and now you were the one trying to get people to buy and spend more money.
Yeah, it was really exhilarating for a while to be on the other side because I'd been a consumer for so long and never a seller. And I found myself, they didn't give me much formal training on how to sell because I was mostly just a cashier, but I found myself employing a lot of the psychological tricks I sort of inwardly did when I bought stuff. And primary among them was like confirming the validity of someone's desire. Like as they were purchasing it, as I was bringing it up, I would be like, this is a must have. We can't seem to keep this in stock. You have chosen well. I would find myself doing that as a consumer. I would watch like YouTube videos of products I already owned to just sort of like, it's kind of like looking in the mirror to just sort of take stock of what I was doing and what I had and that I was making a good decision. And I found it worked on people. Yeah, they really wanted to have their purchase kind of validated by me.
But that works.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the key to being a good salesman is to convince someone that, like, not that they want it, but that they are incomplete without it because it is already part of them.
So in this chapter, you talk about the store's loyalty program. Customers needed to earn 100 points before they earned a discount. And you, as the clerk, saw the guest point balance displayed on the register, but you were taught not to share this information with them before they swiped their card to pay for the item you had just rung up.
Yeah. I mean, that one, they just said the points balance is what gets them in the store. And if they're in the store anyway, you don't need to give it to them unless they ask. And one time I was being beneficent, I guess, and I saw this woman had a really big points balance, and I redeemed it without asking her. I thought I was being so nice, and she actually didn't want me to. She was saving up. She was sort of like sitting on it like a treasure hoard. What I was supposed to do instead was print out the receipt and then lay it smooth it on the counter and circle their point balance with a heart and be like, wow, you have 700 points. That is $10 off for the next time you come in, because it's always about getting them in the next time.
Because if you told them you have enough points to do something now, they might use them and not make the purchase. And the goal was to get them to make a purchase, right?
Yeah, we also had these coupons that I think Ulta still has. It's really ubiquitous. It's in every Ulta catalog, and it's something like $3.50 off. And people would come in and try to use it every single day. And I had to be like, there's actually a bunch of restrictions on this coupon. You can only use it on the drugstore stuff. Can't use it on the fancy stuff, which is what everybody wanted to use it on. I mean, I couldn't outright be like, yeah, they got you. But I started to be like, I know, I'm sorry. I've been had by that coupon too.
You say with your neon highlighter, you drew a wonky heart on the receipt before they left. Did that work? Was that the closer?
Sort of. It was such a trippy little behavior.
So you described floating to the ceiling when you got someone to buy a trinket or apply for an ill-advised Ulta credit card. That's really how it felt?
Yeah, there was this kind of like narcotic rush in convincing someone to buy something. It was like, I got someone to part with their hard-earned money just by my powers of persuasion, because so rarely do you have that concrete of a piece of evidence that you have sort of that power of persuasion over someone. Usually it's a lot softer. It's like, oh, this person agreed to some quest I had, or, I did this or that, but it's literally like, wow, no, that person bought that thing because I convinced them to buy it. It's like being an orator or something.
You wrote, I sold things I didn't own. I sold things I didn't like. I sold things to people who were already buying them. It felt right somehow to compliment the customer's impulses, to confirm them. It felt like the store's final act of magic to transform want into need. Did you ever during this time period feel guilty, or was this just the game? They're the customer, you're the salesperson, your job is to sell them as much as you can.
Yeah, I sometimes felt guilty, or more just like slimy, because I was just being so fake. Like this kind of mask of chipper consumerism that I had felt so strange. I mean, even like the voice I'm using now is my real voice, but the voice I used at Ulta was like, hey there, I'll have the next guest. It was just completely alien. And I would feel, I was like, why am I lying to this person? I don't even need to do that. I don't need to tell this person that I have the thing they have. I remember one time this girl, she was just sort of a slightly awkward, kind of lanky teenager. And for some reason I looked at her and was like, are you a model? And she was like, no, I'm not. And then I was like, oh my God, I thought you were a model. It was weird. It felt good to compliment someone and make them feel good. But then I was like, what? I was like, what I just did is called a compliment, but because I did it within this like consumer space, it felt like something else.
So shopping malls aren't what they used to be, but they still attract crowds, especially on weekends and around holidays. And in one of your essays, you share the story of taking a friend to the mall and what an emotional experience was for you, and how everything you thought was pre-plotted out to be there for a specific reason to make that purchase.
Yeah, and that feeling has a name, I learned. The father of the American shopping mall, Victor Gruen, called it the Gruen transfer. And it's that feeling of bamboozlement you get when you walk into a mall. And it's maybe similar to the feeling you get walking into Costco, where you're full of kind of opportunity and what's going to be around the next corner. For me, it started to kind of calcify into this feeling I started calling mall sad. And it's a feeling I'm still sort of parsing what mall sadness is and why I get it. Because the neat answer is that, I start to get sad because consumerism is this, hollow activity, and like I'm being dogged by the emptiness of it. But I think that's part of it. But yeah, it's just this, I don't know, this artificiality. And I'm sort of looking around at everybody else and I'm like, what is going on? What are we doing? Like the chirpiness of the ad copy and like the careful arrangement of the displays and all of the smells. And it's this weird, depressing sensory overload.
I love this sentence. You said, each store's particular arrangement of sound and light and temperature and scent had been calibrated with military-grade precision to coax my eyes to a shelf, my feet to a register, my fingers into my wallet. I began to feel like I was in a terrarium.
Yeah. It did feel like that. And I think part of it is, I mean, even just the fact that malls are indoor, there is something kind of hermetically sealed about them. And yeah, it's almost like being in a room where there's not a plant, and then you add a plant and you realized how much that kind of reptilian part of you wanted there to be a plant there so that you can like, I don't know, connect with signs of life. Maybe it's that. Yeah, but I mean, maybe the buoyancy and the weapons grade cheerfulness of the displays felt at odds with just kind of the mundane experience I was having. It's like how being at an amusement park or Disney World can be kind of dazzling and then very quickly get, I don't know, overwhelming and depressing.
With online shopping, the malls are always open. You can shop anytime, anywhere at sites strategically designed to get you to buy it now. That's straight ahead. I'm Herb Weisbaum, the Consumer Man, and you're listening to Consumerpedia, powered by checkbook.org.
Consumerpedia Fast Facts. According to the website Statista, Amazon net revenue last year was $638 billion. Amazon faces tough competition from Chinese shopping apps such as Temu and Shine, which are now widely used by American shoppers looking for affordable options. Statista says Temu was the most downloaded shopping app in the U.S. last year. And by the way, shopping on smartphones is now the most popular way to purchase items online in the U.S.
Emily, I think you'd agree that online shopping has supercharged the compulsion to shop, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it first just happen in my dad. He has always been a shopper. And we would go on the weekends to Costco. We would go to, I don't know, REI. We would go to the service merchandise, just go to all these stores. But, there are limits with in-person shopping. You can only fit so much in your car. He was busy working during the week. You can only buy so much. But once Amazon went online, he was pretty early to that. And I remember his eyes like lighting up. And it's like being in Costco all the time. It's like, again, that like dopamine hit is constant. The joy of it is kind of doubled in that you get to like have that rush when you hit buy. And you get to have that rush when it arrives on your doorstep. It's like you're buying yourself a mini Christmas with every purchase.
And your dad also didn't have your mother there to say, don't buy that when you're buying something late at night or in a room all by yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of like how, people will often recommend if you're overspending to try to do your purchases in cash.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like along the same lines, I've noticed that in person, even when I've imposed limits on my buying, I never really have to do it in person because in person, when I'm faced with the physical reality of what I'm buying, I'm actually a pretty thoughtful shopper. And I think it's similar. Like online is so abstract and in the air that I think it encourages you to just sort of lose touch with reality a little bit.
I recently watched a new Netflix documentary called Buy Now, The Shopping Conspiracy, and it explored the horrible environmental consequences of overconsumption and how brands and retailers manipulate us to buy things that we really don't need. It featured a former Amazon executive, Maren Costa, who explained some of the many tricks that Amazon uses to get you to buy more. She said, everything you see on each page is tested and tested and tested and designed to get you to buy now.
I mean, it's really a science. We were constantly developing new ways to get you to buy, influencing your behavior in subtle ways that you'd never even realize. We could have, a certain sentence that says, free shipping if you purchase $25 or more. In one case, you make the $25 orange. In another one, you make it green. And you can have 9 different things that you're testing against each other. And there's enough traffic to the site that you could get statistically relevant data on which version of that sentence makes the most money. Every pixel on that page was tested and optimized and optimized and optimized.
Yeah, it's really weapons grade over there. I've talked to people who work on kind of the algorithms of like, for example, those those abandoned cart emails you get where you're like, how do you even know I was there? And it's like this like siren being like, I saw you looking, like, do you want to come back? It is insane what they can track and how they can use it to get you to buy.
In the book, you spoke about your first office job with a good salary and how you shopped, quote, with a vigor that startled even you. You write, if I was awake and not on the clock, I was on my phone. And if I was on my phone, I was building a cart. And then you started downloading all the apps, Sephora, eBay, Target, CVS, Nordstrom, Gap, even Papa John's and McDonald's. You write, if I'd find someplace to sit or sprawl and open each one up like a portal to a new world, my body still, but for a few fingers which manipulated the screen with the tender and knowing finesse of a carpenter or a brain surgeon. With only my thumb, I could open up the new arrivals and resort them by price, low to high. I could add 3 different things to my cart and then flip among them, reading the reviews of each. Collectively, shopping ate up the bulk of my waking life. Yikes.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I've especially noticed that with trying to get you to get the app versus the web version. I don't know if you've noticed, but websites are getting worse and worse, particularly shopping websites. And I think it's because if they can get you on that app, I feel like it turns your cognition into something a little bit more animal and more muscle memory-ish. Like there is something so, I don't know, whenever I use the web version of I have to use my mouse to click around and there's like a separation. And I think in that separation, I can think a little bit more, but an app is just like, if you think you are addicted to an app, move its location on your home screen and watch how many times your little animal thumb goes to click that app in its old location. It's sobering.
And I'll tell you, everybody wants you to download the app now. I mean, they know it works. There's no question about that.
Oh yeah, no, they just make it so crappy to go on the web version that you're like, all right, fine. That's what got me to get I'm like, do I need the Papa John's app? No, but it is undeniably a smoother user experience.
So what do you think about people who decide not to buy anything but essentials for a period of time? Have you ever tried a no-buy year?
Oh yeah, I'm in one right now. And I've tried them before and failed, but I'm in one right now. It is an addiction, both in how hard it was to break initially and how, I'm like 3 months in now. I'm not saying I'm totally cured. I'm sure I would have completely relapsed back into super overconsumption, but I don't want things as much. Like I really, can want something. And now that I've experienced the feeling of wanting something so bad, and then 1 week later, revisiting that want and being like, this does nothing. I would really, really recommend it. I've tried to get my dad to do one forever. I'm like, just for a day, just for a week, just try not to buy anything, just to see how it feels. Just to, I think, give yourself a sense of how addicted you could be. Because I think shopping, compared to a lot of addictions, it can feel relatively benign. It's kind of almost charming. It's like, oh, I'm a shopaholic. And I think it can make people forget just how much of their brain it takes up. And I think once it starts taking up a lot of your brain, I found myself, I would look forward to shopping during interactions with other people, or I would sort of filter experiences through shopping. Like I'd be like, wow, I'm having such a nice time at the park and everyone is dressed really well. I wonder where I can find these things online later. Or, oh, I'm having such a nice time at the park. What if I got a really good park blanket so that the next time I'm here, I can really, splash out? That's when I realized I needed to pause and assess.
I've heard the tip, if you want to buy something online, put it in your basket, leave it there for a week and come back and chances are you might not need it. That's a good way to slow things down.
Absolutely. Yeah. It still surprises me how much what feels like a huge need in that moment, which is a need that is partly, manufactured by these companies, how much that evaporates after a week or 2 or 3. And if you still want it after 3 weeks, then it's probably a legitimate, it's not a chemical animal need. It's a need that you have thought about or a want. It can just be a want.
So based on what you discovered about yourself in shopping when you wrote this book, are you any better now at separating your wants from your needs? It sounds like you are.
Yeah, I think I am. And I don't want to speak too soon and pretend that I'm cured of it, but I do think I'm better able to sort of say, okay, just because some sort of receptor in my brain is activated by this thing, just because I like it or I can see a place for it in my life, does not mean that I need it. It is fine to just want something and not need it. I have plenty, I feel like I don't subscribe to the you have to need it or it has to spark joy, but I feel like I think pausing what I buy has had me take stock of what I actually use, where there are gaps where I actually could use maybe like a different belt or a better blender or something, and where I'm just kind of fruitlessly optimizing because I'm flexing the muscle of buying stuff.
When you started to write the book, were you concerned about the environment, that kind of thing, or were you basically concerned about people just spending too much money and get addicted to shopping?
Yeah, no, I think the environmental stuff, it took on an interesting form as I was writing the book and before writing the book. Usually I would accumulate, I would order all this stuff. I'd return a bunch of it. I'd box half of it back up. And, I'd flatten all the boxes and, I'd do the whole little routine. It took hours. At first, at least, I would feel sort of cleansed by it. That feeling when you drop something off at Goodwill and you're like, I'm free. But it started to become that anytime I would get rid of something, whether it was take it to Goodwill, return it, or throw it away or anything, it didn't really feel like it left. I think I just imagined it joining this large pile. And I've started to think of everything that way as just like, oh, this doesn't leave. It leaves me, but it doesn't leave the earth. And it's hard, it's hard to balance this kind of abstract, gigantic concept of your environmental impact with the day-to-day, just like, I don't know, I'm drinking out of a plastic bottle. It's easy to sort of feel like abstaining from it doesn't do anything, so why bother? But I have started to try and reduce waste. But absolutely, yeah, I think that just that feeling of like nothing is ever truly jettisoned from me started to really take hold, and it was very strange and sobering.
Emily Mester is author of the new book, American Bulk, Essays on Excess. If you want to make a purchase, you can buy it on Amazon. Emily, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It was a fascinating conversation. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, that's it for this edition of Consumerpedia. We hope you'll rate the episode and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Remember, we release new episodes every other Thursday. Another way you can support this show is to follow us on Consumerpedia on Facebook and Instagram, and at My Consumerpedia on X, formerly Twitter. I'm Herb Weisbaum. Thank you for listening.
Consumerpedia is a public service of checkbook.org. We're a unique nonprofit that helps you save money and make smarter choices. You can count on Checkbook to help you find the best services and avoid the worst, with local ratings that are accurate and unbiased. If you live in or around these 7 cities and haven't joined Checkbook yet, check us out. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, Minneapolis-St. Paul, Seattle, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. To get your free 30-day subscription, go to checkbook.org/Consumerpedia. Consumerpedia, empowering consumers to save money and make smarter choices.